To be a caregiver of someone with suspected CTE can be one of the most difficult of life's journeys. Why is that? So many reasons that we're going to be talking about for the rest of this webinar, including CTE being an invisible disability. Can't see it. There's nothing that makes someone look like they have CTE. And so as a caregiver, you may not be able to detect it. It might just seem like an extreme of something else that, maybe the person was like, or maybe you think it's just aging or something else. And your friends, your relatives, and even the doctors may not detect it because right now we don't have a diagnosis during life yet. And some clinicians out there are not at all educated or well educated about CTE. And so they might just dismiss any idea of it or not ever bring it up. Another reason why it can be so difficult for caregivers is because it does often have an impact on younger men, often large and strong younger men. And that can lead to safety concerns for family, as well as professional caregivers. If someone needs to have a professional caregiver, either in the house or if someone has to move to an assisted living or a nursing facility, that large, strong man might be out of the realm of possibility for the professional caregivers to take care of. CTE can also strike during the productive years, earlier than, let's say, Alzheimer's disease, especially with the problems with emotional and behavioral control. And if you have problems during those productive years, imagine what it can then do to taking care of kids, being responsible for kids. Or imagine what then can happen at work, the ability to maintain one's job, to be successful in it. And some problems from CTE can indeed lead to or exacerbate abuse of alcohol or other substances, and therefore make recovery more difficult and, sadly, relapse more likely. And so with that, I'm going to introduce an amazing person, Dr. Shannon Albarelli, who is a licensed clinical psychologist. She's in private practice in New Jersey. She's also the co-founder of New Jersey's premier meditation studio called Quell. Her husband, former U.S. national team lacrosse player Mike Albarelli, died at the age of 38. Dr. Albarelli.
Hi, thank you for having me. I just want to share kind of my story as a caregiver, but I was dealing, my husband, he had really the early stages of what Dr. Stern is talking about, where what I started to notice is his inability to regulate his emotions. He had these rage attacks and throwing his phone, and it didn't match what was going on. And so, but I didn't really know what was happening. He also started drinking more intensely, and he started making, really poor decisions, and we had babies to take care of. And it was really, I knew he, was a person that had so much pride in who he was, and but he was not acting the way that I think he would have wanted to have acted. And I think there was a lot of shame in that. And then that spiraled into drinking more and trying to numb that out. And his behavior became more and more erratic, the impulse control, emotion regulation. And it was really difficult because, we're trying to raise our family. He's working, I'm working, and it was really, really hard. And I felt like I just started to lose him. And then, but we tried to put things in place like couples counseling. He got individual counseling. He went to rehab. He did all of these things. So he had every opportunity to try to get well, but he just couldn't. And he kept making the same choices over and over. And for me as his wife, I was so angry and resentful and upset, and I didn't understand. We have 2 young kids. You have a great career. How could you do this over and over, knowing the consequences? And so I think if I were to give myself advice now, I didn't know how much he was suffering kind of inside with the CTE. It wasn't until a year later when we sent his brain out that we got the confirmation that he did have CTE.
Shannon, can I ask why you decided to have his brain donated? What was it about going on that made you even think about it being CTE?
It just didn't fit. The pieces didn't fit. He was a great guy, biggest heart, life of the party. He cared so much, and it didn't make sense. None of it really made sense. And anyone who knew him would never have thought that this was what was kind of going on behind the scenes. And even before, when I tried to get him help and I tried to get his friends and his family involved, I don't think anyone understood really what it was like behind the scenes, because he put on a really good show all the time. So it was really challenging. And then, my dad, it just happens to be a neurologist and knew Mike very well, knew that this wasn't making sense, and he was the one who was like, we have got to send his brain to get studied.
So then you sent it, and after a while, you got the results. Were you expecting to find CTE? Were you reading about CTE? Was it making sense that maybe some of his behaviors could have been caused by this disease?
As soon as that became a possibility, and as soon as we sent his brain out, it helped put the pieces of the puzzle together for me. And in speaking to his friends and family, everyone was like, "There's no way he didn't have it." So it made everything kind of fit. And for me, it helps me because it's hard when your husband keeps making the same mistakes. And in a way you take it personally, like, don't you love us enough to stop? You have every opportunity. We have little kids. Like, can't you do this for us? And so it was so hurtful in the moment, but now looking back, I understand there was more going on, and he was handicapped more than I knew.
A lot of people have problems with substance use and abuse. But a lot of people are able to make some really hard choices and commitment and put the work in and be successful at rehab.
Yeah.
That's not what happened with Mike.
No.
What was going on in your mind during that time? You had 2 little kids.
Yeah, I was in survival mode. I was so angry. I was so filled with anger and resentment. No one seemed to understand or help me. I felt all alone in it. I also felt ashamed in some ways, and I felt like I needed to kind of maybe hide that part of him to the world, because he did have so much pride. So I was just, and then I would, when he was good, he was really good. And I was like, oh, here he is again. And then he'd go away. And so I just felt like it was so hard. And I was really anxious and trying to just navigate it and trying to take care of my kids and work. And so really what helped me, which I'm going to share towards the end of this session, is the thing that helped me the most, and because a lot of it was managing my own emotions, is meditation. That it really became like an anchor for me to stay connected to myself, because I think you often get lost in their problems as a caregiver. You think most of your thoughts are about them and not about yourself. And so I had to refine myself And meditation really was helpful for that. Even before he died, and then after. I mean, that's, you know, what's kept me together.
You still have two young kids.
Yeah.
You're working,
Yeah.
and you're learning all about what happened to Mike and getting more involved with understanding things about CTE.
Yeah.
And yet you are someone who makes the time to focus on yourself, to be able to learn to reduce stress, to learn how to take care of your overall well-being. How do you do that?
Well, I just find it essential. Like, if I'm not doing well, no one is doing well. My kids, you know, I feel like I set the tone for what's happening in my family. And I mean, really, they have kept me the strongest, because I need to be a role model for them. And I want them to learn to be able to take care of themselves too. And I know I can rest my head easier at night if I know I've done the best that I can do. And to do the best that I can do, I know that I need certain ingredients in my day, like a little exercise, a little outside time, meditation, and those things make me the best version of me, so that I can be the best version for other people too.
That's pretty darn good. All right, now let's switch it back a little bit. When you were going through the last couple years of Mike's life, what did you do with all those feelings? What did you do with the feeling alone, like you said? Did you have people around you? How did you cope?
Yeah, I had a couple really close friends who did understand more what was going on. But I was filled with anxiety, and I felt like I was totally over functioning. So like I was so busy. I kind of got myself so busy that I didn't have to deal with my feelings in a way. And I didn't sleep very well for years, constant worrying. And when he was doing well, I was just really waiting for the shoe to drop, because I think I knew. Like, there was at one point where I said to him, you know, Mike, it's never going to be okay with me for you to drink again. I just don't know if it's going to be okay with you for you not to drink again. And that really ended up being his downfall, is that he fell down the stairs intoxicated and sustained a head injury that took his life. So, yeah.
You were saying that most of what you were feeling was anxiety.
Yeah.
Was there anger? Because I hear that
So much.
so often from people. Yeah.
How could you do this? How could you do this to me? How could you do this to our kids? How could you not be there? How could you continue to make the same decisions over and over, knowing that it would upset everybody? We had a good life. It didn't make sense that he was so angry all the time. And I'd filled with it. It was really, really eating at me. Yeah.
Any last minute words of guidance, advice for the viewers?
You know, I think if I knew what he was suffering from was really a disease, and I know alcoholism is a disease, and CTE is a disease too, that I think I would have been able to maybe, hopefully, zoom out a little bit and recognize that this is a very sick person who is having a hard time, making like good decisions and needs more support around them. I think I would have tried to find ways to let go of the anger a little bit more, and really, I think self-care is the thing I think I would tell everybody, is that you have got to take care of yourself throughout this.